this is working, yes. Wonderful job. Very, very well prepared, and I love your playing. It's very sensitive. You have quite beautiful clarity. So perhaps the best thing to do is to start backwards, because I feel the first, the prelude, it's quite beautiful. It has great clarity, and it's managed very well. But the jig is a little bit more problematic. It's a dance that originated in the British Isles, and it kind of soon spread out throughout Europe in the aristocratic circles. It is, of course, the fast dance, but as always, we have to deal with two factors. The piano that we are playing, right? The fact that it was not intended for a piano. And so the problem with the piano, for me, always starts around here, going, the journey downward to the clarity due to the way the harmonics are. It makes a lot of, even in, see, it's very rich, this instrument, and the instruments that Bach played had a very different temperament, let's say. They had a much easier time with clarity than these instruments. So if you play too fast, and then on top of that you have certainly a resonant hole, then the clarity is less and less, right? So you'll have to kind of work more with a sense of staccato. So even if you play like a articulated but not, right? You don't play staccato in the right hand, but I suggest that you might have to try when you might have to play staccato in the left hand. Even if you don't play staccato in the right hand, it might balance with clarity, and also to take a tempo that is perhaps 2% slower. I would try that. Now, the modern instrument has another problem. The keys go more deeply than the harpsichord or the clavichord, for example. This was probably played with the harpsichord anyway. And although we have the double escapement that generates a lot of speed, and we can do that, but we can do that at a cost because the keys are much heavier. So it's a little bit harder to play ornaments in Bach on the modern piano. So even enriching this with, say, like you could, but in the jig, since it's so fast, you don't have a lot of possibilities. Maybe you have to add fewer of these. For example, here. That's another one. Usually arrivals, long notes, like a. You can, in the repeat, you can also fill in this interval with a with a mini scale. So you can and maybe something like that. Sorry. Or that's another one that could be possible. But these are somewhat less important than the actual choice of tempo. Could you try one more time? Maybe more like. Good. That's very good. I still think that if you play. Even this could be a little heavy if you want to mark, the arrival to the dominant. You can short, and can you try? Good. So it's not as short as, but more. Maybe this one could be, and bum, bim, bum, bim, bum, bum. Good. Basically, it's the speed with which you leave the key, not enter. So, right? Otherwise, if you enter with speed, you get a louder sound. Okay? Can you try that? Ah, I see a little bit your wrist wobbling. So that makes some notes a little bit heavier than others. Imagine if you did an octave like so that you have a similar approach. That's harder to control. Can you try that? Especially this finger, by the way, this. Play this for me. That's right, you see? So only you don't play the octave, but keep the thumb in the same position as if you were holding an imaginary small object between 1 and 2, like this. There it is. Yes. Very good, very good. Now, there is something more striking than maybe at this point we have an arpeggio that goes up, but we have something more striking in the left hand that goes down, right? And that's quite unusual, I think. So don't try to overpower the left hand by trying to hear more of but more, yeah? Almost like in the harpsichord where the voices are heard equally with clarity because you can't make so much difference by softening one hand and having more character in the other hand. It doesn't quite work the same, right? But as a result, you have a more homogeneous approach on the harpsichord. So I think you can try to hear both voices. Can you try right from there? You can look at the score. Where is it? Sorry. Good. And yeah, even this one, it's a bit elephantine. It's a little bit too heavy. No? If you can. Also, a lot of lines should have small crescendo. It's more interesting that, all the same. I would try to do a little bit. Can you try from the beginning again with this short right? Yeah, but don't rush. This is very important because this is. You have this rhythm here, okay? Too short now. This, you see? Yeah. Yes, the descent, Emily, I think for the descent and also for octave leaps, generally in the music of Bach, octave leaps were not often legato, kind of. When you play, you know what I mean? Just a little bit of break. It's nice to hear. Can you try that? Somewhere, maybe here. And to arrive to the climax, more. If you play, I don't know, but if you see, when you have stop, stop. Some music goes, and other music is meant to make a statement. This and then normal, and it goes, right? Yeah, okay. So there is the principle here is in this suite, especially the outer dances, I find is a principle of motoric motion that doesn't stop. It's like in the prelude, right? There is no break. It's so intense from beginning to end. And that one makes even a bigger statement because it's longer. So I think that even in the prelude, though, there are some moments where you cadence, right? Those are the moments where you can relax a bit. Or the other one, which we will see later, where it changes a little bit the mood. So even the tempo can be, 1% a bit, under tempo, so to speak. But I think this one should have this arrival in Bach, even when you study, the prelude and fugue. For fun, you should always look where Bach places the lowest and the highest note, because it's very unusual. And so he has a very precise scope. And usually those notes need to be somewhat highlighted. We need to know, because for his time, in some cases, they were notes that were looking like this, as if you were finishing the instrument and there was nothing else to do. So somebody plays this, it has a different meaning that, this or whatever, It's really reaching out a little bit. And since Bach was a great architect, every time in subjects or fugues, he always calculated, this is the octave, the subject should be within the octaves. First I move to a fourth, then I go something here, and then I go back. There is a design, always some figuration in place. So these things of choosing at the appropriate moment the lowest note and the highest note, it's a thought that has to do with architecture, So it's something that you can, like singers do sometimes. They scan very quickly to say, oh, this is, in this register, I can sing very well. They know exactly what the highest note is, and the lowest note. So they know if it's a piece for them. Then you should kind of approach also this with the same curiosity. Okay, so now the tempo is much more under control. And every time you have these figurations, the pickup note, which is everything in many dances of Bach. So we can't play like too soft or maybe too loud. That we confuse what the beat is, right? It must be the proper proportion. So always, and also when you have a starting place with one note only, pick up. All these are. It's important not to just play like equal, but yes. Can we try maybe from here? Good. Have the same feeling that you would have if I ask you to do this. If you have to jump an octave, you would take a little more time, right? Now, try for fun to do, sorry, where was I? Here. Can you try that with a jump? Yes, you see, it takes just a little time. Now, play in the same register, but do. Then tempo. Good. Now, try the difference between. Try staccato left hand. I assure you will hear the contrapoint better. I don't know. How does it sound in the large space? Is it different? There's more clarity. It doesn't need to be louder. So left hand doesn't need to be louder, but it's a different touch. And as a result, touch differentiation causes more variety. And the variety is at the basis of understanding of the parts. So that could be, sorry? Okay. So that would be a possibility for you to tap into. Yeah, good. The rest is quite the same. So I am, aside from what I told you, sometimes you could do. So not only you can do, but maybe only one time, right? And sometimes you can put mordent. In other places, like he writes this one, but you can also do in other places. Or when you have this leap in the beginning, when you repeat, you could do, or just, or these are variants that you can insert freely in these places, just to make the music a bit different through ornamentation. Yeah? Now, let's talk a little bit about the centerpiece, which is the Sarabande. Originated, you know the story maybe, it originated in Spain or Mexico through the Spanish conquest. It was at some point a dance that, you know, you played very beautifully with great intimacy with the music, very sensitive, because this is the center, the core of the suite. In fact, it's one of the four most important dances that are found almost as a standard package, you know, when you write a suite. Sometimes there is a prelude, but generally it's the Allemande, Courante, Sarabande, and the jig, right? So the Sarabande is the center, very intimate, to the point that the Spanish conquistadores, they decided that no, that doesn't work with our religious credo, doesn't quite work with the social norms of society. So suddenly in 1583, they cut it off. They said, no more sarabands. I'm sorry, nobody can dance the sarabande because, you know, it's not something that we do anymore. It's just too slow. It's too sensitive as a dance, you know, because you just have to be tough, you know, you cannot show your sentiments. So there were other, you know, maybe it has something to do with other dances that we have in, you know, still now, like the Argentinian tango perhaps, but in any case, that was prohibited. It resurfaced suddenly in Italy at the beginning of the 17th century, gets all the way to France, and of course, they totally embraced the dance, and then it became really very popular. And in the process, the tempo of this dance got a little bit slower, and so the sensitivity is easier to appear. So you did a wonderful job, but you know, the early sarabands were played on the lute. You know, a guitar, right? So imagine another string instrument. What can they do with the strings? They can arpeggiate very easily. You know, you go like brum, you strum, and you get an easy arpeggio. Arpeggio from the harp comes from the word arpeggio in Italian, which means the arpeggio, right? So taking a chord and rolling it. So even though this music doesn't have arpeggiation written, sometimes it does, but many times it doesn't, you are authorized to do that. In the first partita of Bach, you have a here you have the only problem with arpeggios is that each note of the arpeggio shouldn't sound equal, otherwise it gets heavy. So we have to find a way to play quite softly, and not so much pedal if possible, like this is written. This is not, but you can. Now, there are two ways to do that. Sometimes you play the bass before the entire chord. So you could do. Yes. One thing is not to be able to play hands together because you have a problem with synchronism between the hands. And we always tell young people, don't do that. They have to, you have to play together. Because otherwise you grow up and your ear can't tell the difference, all these people can play for every single note, right? They don't play hands together. But quite another is an intentional form of, an intentional decision to do that. So this one is very possible. You can do this with the arpeggiation, and you can also play very small. Maybe more opulent, this one. This one. When you have these, sometimes the Sarabande has, like I showed you earlier, this is easier to understand if I play. You see, there's 1, 2, there is a stop. 1 and stop. In a way, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. The 2 sounds a little bit elongated because that's what the Sarabande does. Okay. Sorry, you have here 2. It's a Sarabande, right? The theme of the Goldberg variation. So basically, when you have these arrivals with the half note, which you see right here, that's the place where you can relax the music a little bit, and you can often find a small ornament, like a trill here, but not mechanically like until the end, just a. This one you played very softly, so I invite you after this masterclass to go find the recording of the Sarabande of the Flute Suite in A minor by Bach. Because also you have to hear the sound of the flute. Often Sarabande had in mind the sound of the flute or the voice, very vocal. Can you try to arpeggiate a little bit? Like, sorry, try. Good, but be careful of one thing. If I do this, ti, ta, ra, 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 ta, I'm just walking exactly with the same steps. But if I do, rim, ra, 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 da, da, I took, so there should be, you don't have to follow exactly the meter precisely, you have to follow maybe a larger sense of the meter that goes from, also there is another interesting thing, it should be, but it does, it opens that to what sounds like F major to your ear, but it is actually 6 in the scale of A minor. So it's a major chord instead of a minor chord. It's a big deal. So it has to have, a smile going to that, and more direction. Can you try that? Play for me 2 parts only, these. Sorry. These now. Try, and then go. Yeah, don't stop on the G because it's not finished, right? It does a. In the other hand, of course. You see what I mean? Then you make this mini form, you elongate it. If you understand the connection, and you can quiet down there. Good. Now with that spirit in mind, yeah, don't get bogged down by these chords, which chords are thick, they slow us down. Instead, they should be so light and so. Try, and. You stop already. So you did you feel too much this one. It's just a passing note. And then good. And if you want to emphasize too, this you make the E a little longer, and then you recuperate what you steal by elongating the E, by doing. I did T. I didn't do T, ta, 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 T. I did T, ra, 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 ram. Yeah? Ram, do, 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 do. Definitely, you see, this arrival is arpeggiated. You know, this. Careful with the pedal. Good, and you see, he adds an ornament to suggest it, but sometimes and to finish, you can, without holding the D, because it's dissonant, right? It's a passing note. And then when you restart, you can play. Sometimes the music in the Sarabandes ends on 2, and it doesn't move. There are some things similar in Mozart concertos, second movements, that there is always motion, and suddenly it stops. It meant, well, I didn't have time to finish it. Can you fill in? Well, that's hard to do that many years later, right? But these were little connecting notes that were possible. So if you finish with the, you can play a scale from like, and then you play the second one, right? So you can also play a passing note before that. You can play. And same in here. And so on, yeah. It's like a neighbor tone, unaccented because it comes before the beat. Anyway, these are all theoretical things that are a little complicated, but go by ear. Listen to. And even these, the bass can come earlier. Sorry. You did right here. Or you You see? Play it from here again. That's sentimental. You know, that's actually something so highly dissonant in Bach time. He would have done fortissimo if he could, and he couldn't because he had a harpsichord, but we can. So, because you have a false relation between the parts. You know, so show that, you know. Good. And more left hand. You know, if you are a soprano, it's not so easy to sing very high notes so softly. I can't do it, you know. Would you? They always have to open, you know. It's really, you need more air for the high notes. So don't sound like a pianist. Think about like a singer. And then the scale descending. Okay. Sorry, we are running a little bit out of time, so we need to stop, and it's very unfortunate. I want to say 2 words about, because it was really good, your prelude, even when it comes to the clarity. So I pick page 2, the classic, this one. If you go with this tempo, by the way, you did a great job in showing me this, but when the music gets a little exciting, you don't realize you might do, you almost legato these 2 near the end, right? So always think of, it can be more forte, but don't change the articulation. Also, if you want, all these, there are many. Instead of always playing, sometimes it's possible to play in couples, as if Bach wrote slurs on them. But more importantly, whatever tempo you take, when you go, this is a beautiful sequence. Whatever. So it's calming. And so your tempo can relax just slightly when you play. Think of the vibrato on the note. If you do rum, you know, you have a little vibrato on that note. Or if they used the messa di voce, they had. So to be able to give it time for the sound to open, they took more time. So you don't have to play immediately like, you go, and then you can go on. Can you try arriving from maybe here? There. Yes, okay, so that one thing. And also the other voices can be less, like. So this one has to stay a little longer. If you play with 2 hands, you would probably do. You know what I mean? So a small change of color for the other voices. The other place is this one. Stay a little bit longer on this unusual. I remember in early days, they never had that ornament, so everybody played. It kind of kept going, but it's an incredibly expressive device to have. So take a little time there. And finally, make sure that this is very clear, this. I I want you to feel as though people are marching by. They start far away. They're coming closer. A little bit in crescendo. And the best thing to do is not to do crescendo with both hands. Do it with the left hand only. And only near the end you can use the right hand. Otherwise, if you do equal crescendo, it becomes, a little bit too loud or too heavy. Yeah. So these are probably some of the things that I wanted to say. Lastly, this one. It's possible to do legato. You do legato between. You do. I still would do. Pa 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 pa. Yes. Yes, that's what I would do. It's still very, pepped up and exciting. Yeah, we have to stop. Thank you so much. Bravo. Terrific. So, your turn. Where we go from Bach, which era? Thank you. You know what the word, where the word waltz come from? Or what?
France.
Well, it's Walzer from Germany, actually. I can't remember if the word comes from waltzen, I think, which means twisting and turning. It is a turning dance, isn't it? Because if you have watched people dancing it, I don't think I could do it, frankly, because after a few of these constant turns, you know, with feet that follow the pattern of three, but the turns almost never stop. If you've ever watched the concert from Vienna on New Year's Eve, they have often, you know, they broadcast the orchestra and they have ballerinas dancing, and you see a little bit that it's incredibly elegant. But the dance, the early dance, which came probably from the Ländler, Schubert was the one who wrote many Ländler, and from the word land in German, right, is peasant music, folk music from the land, from the, you know, from the Alps near Austria and especially Bavaria. So this dance became, of course, it's a dance, the Ländler, where you have a lot of hand grabbing. It's dance, you know, in couples, of course. There are multiple people on two lines, and they have to figure out ways to grab each other by the arm, by the hands. And so all of this evolved into a more modern dance, the waltz, though, you know, nothing dies because now there is a new dance that replaces the previous dance. And the waltz was embraced by the aristocracy. The aristocracy became a very, very important matter for people who wanted to do public life. You needed to learn how to dance the waltz. And throughout the entire 19th century, that's what it was until, you know, the Strauss Jr. that made, he was called the king of waltz in Austria, right? And of course, Chopin embraced it, and so did many others in France too. And the idea of turning, though, if you try to dance it, if the orchestra begins to do too much rubato or gives me less sound on certain beats, then the ballerina could get a little confused. Where is the one? I need 3-1 and 3-1 and 3-1 and 3-1. I need to feel the one, right? So it's very important to create also a little bit of stability. I know that sometimes you were, you know, I don't refer to the coda that is usually played a little bit faster, except perhaps for Rubinstein, who is more careful because Chopin didn't write to play faster, but a little bit, yes. So, in other words, there are different aspects which you already noticed. There is the pam-para-bam, right? There is a little intro, pam-para-bam, para-bam. Imagine all the people kind of scattered in the ballroom, and they hear the, you know, some horn call, pam, or trumpet, pa-ba-bam, pa-ba-bam. Oh, something is happening. Okay, would you like to dance? And then they start going in the ballroom, and then they start to dance because it begins, right? So that's the moment where you have a few seconds to kind of decide what you're going to do with your partner, you know, just before you start. So you have that. And then you have the repeated notes. But similarly, this should be clear at all times. Also the difference between short notes, which somehow in the original edition, it's incredible to see these long pedals of Chopin. Yeah? So, whether you do them or not, that's another story. But the point is to have always this and long. This one is long. Some are long. When you play, that is long. So to know these differences, to make them clear. And then you have the other character that's more like you did, a bit more expansive, this more legato, can be a little calmer than, sounds too, if you play the same tempo, it sounds not dolce enough. So instead of, he was very wise, Chopin, instead of saying, play a little slower so that you can play dolce, he didn't want to, uncover his card. He played his secret poker and he said, maybe you play dolce. And of course, dolce means you must feel differently, and you feel differently when the tempo allows you to do so, right? So there is that. And then it becomes very, very corky with with this writing, right? So that can go a little bit more, and then it opens again to this one takes advantage of very warm basses. You need show that, not show always the parts that move, not those that remain alike. Yeah, and then you have the more these can have a certain degree of flexibility, of course. Then the waltz comes back, the repeated notes, he just jams them all together, even the right? And then it does the big grand finale. And then when you think that it's over, he sneaks out of that with the mini coda that sparkles of joy, and that is, usually when you have tam, pam, 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 and then fireworks, right? You have the moment where the fireworks begin. Okay, so let's try to always, at all time, to hear the clarity of the 1, 2, 3 in the bass. Can you try in the very beginning with a very clear sense of timing, because this one was a little bit capricious, very pa, 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 but wait a second, what is your one? So pam, pa, pa, pam, pa, pa, pa. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, pa, pa, pa. Because I have a feeling that you expand these, or you're not really counting 2. You're doing pa, fermata, pita, pa, fermata. But it's 1, 2, pata, 1, 2, pata, pam, pata, pam, pata, pam. There. Yes. Good. But, it's possible to do, but I would reserve that maybe for the second part, when the big grand finale comes, when you have the one with the octaves, you can maybe use that rubato. But, we just got warmed up here. It's just the beginning, so don't be too fussy. Let us understand the tempo. 1, so, imagine you have a little bell here. Good. I lose something. This is short, right? So he wants the 3 to be connected to 1 in the right hand, but not in the left hand. So we have now both are disconnected before, because that gives the climax more clarity, right? So good. So make sure you do that with not that, but very difficult, that writing. Good. The piano, though, is not is a so so try to do the yapa. Good. And try to hear when we have the inner voice is beautiful. So good. That's different the second time. After you do, that's the first time. Chopin is full of changes of mind. So he will articulate disconnected to this, but the second time he wants the legato. If we have the same edition. You have Henle. So we are going into the fun territory of the Germans, which have, Chopin didn't have direct control over that publication. And Henle tends to prefer a little bit the German edition. He sent his edition, I don't know, maybe to make a little more money here and there, to London and to Germany, and then also in Paris. But in Paris, possibly he had maybe more opportunities to see what they were doing during his lifetime. But anyway, if you have that edition, then it's hard to compare for us. But it's always very interesting to see the possibility, which it's beautiful because it changes the meaning, of the passage. So sometimes I tend to prefer the slightly different articulation, the edition that gives me more of that, because it's always fresh. But anyway, moving on to another aspect, which is ending and wrapping up. I don't hear your left hand because I think when you play, you wobble a little bit. You get a little too relaxed. You go like this. And so, the hand should have a certain shape when you play. So you're doing this, but you don't let the finger bounce off the keys. So keep it in shape. Good. 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 What is the difference? We have a so the third repeated notes with more sparkle. These can be a bit more brilliant. Try. Good. Why not doing what you did earlier? With much more brilliance here. And when it ends, you play all softer. Oops, don't miss the bass. I don't know about the... I would do... Yes. Careful again with the... And there is no sound. It's the same as a... In Papillon, you have that, right? It's a... If you relax the hand, you get... So always feel not too much tension, but not fully relaxed either. Good, don't shy away with the bass. Always the... Always that... That's definitely legato, no? Even in your edition, this... Good. Good. Could you make the repeated notes a bit, I don't want to say elegant, but I find that they are becoming a little bit, you know, they're becoming almost too clear. Just it's like a yeah. Stay close to the key. Yes. Beautiful. Keep the pedal though, when you have the long note. This, yes, your ear has to hear the difference between and then so there are interesting things that composers do. Debussy, when he wants to tell us to use the pedal, he puts a long note in the bass and then he moves the hand somewhere else. But since it's a long note, if you move the hand, you will lose the sound. So it's a wonderful way to say you might need the pedal there. Chopin does the same thing. And then here instead, when he plays the staccato, he puts the pedal, right? Short note, pedal. Long note, no need to write the pedal. It's kind of interesting. So in this case, you also have a... I understand that you want to have two characters here. You want... and you have these... yeah, so you can make a small difference. Good, but it's not just pa pa pa. It's pa pa. Two notes are pa pa. The third belongs to ta ri ra ra, pa ri ra ra, pa ri ra. So the third note should be yeah. The pickup should be more. Good, but let me hear what's so interesting. As he goes down 2 and 2 and 2, he goes up 2. And then, so those are have to be audible. Actually, yeah, you have to make an effort. Okay, no accent though, where he doesn't, don't think of the bar lines now in 3/4. Think 2 chords, so, like in Bartok. Suddenly he writes 2/4. You have 1/4, or actually it's, this is part of 3, then he does 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. You're doing, even you accent that note, but the writing is meant to tell you. You know, they didn't play these games. They didn't figure out yet that they could change, you know, it's almost an hemiola, which means he gives you 3 accent, 1, 2, 3 in 2 bars. In 2 bars, you have accent on 1, so you would get 2 accents, but he gives you 3. So it's pretty cool. So by playing the accent in the wrong spot, you kind of defy what he was trying to suggest. He wanted a change of, possibly, of bar line and 2/4 for a moment, but you know, it didn't exist. And certainly composers, when they made these small switches like this to confuse the audience, that suddenly we are not in 3, but we are in 2. They kept it very short, so nobody at that time considered the possibility that you could change and write 2/4 and then back to 3/4, right? So, but make it that. Well, that's a little too. Stay a little bit, look, like this. Yeah. Can you make the sound of the pedal? How do you make the sound of the pedal without the pedal? what does the pedal do? It makes the sound a little longer if you do, among other things. It elongates the sound if you do. But you can, and also it helps you to stop the sound with the foot. But you can stop the sound with the hand. So if you do, that's super quick. But you can slow the way up by using horizontal motions like, but see this one, if you want more, you go, you arch the hand and you go like, but that the sound becomes too brilliant maybe. No? Yeah. Yeah. Also, you're doing something different. Play. This is longer, this is shorter. Make them similar. Yes. Make a difference though. When you play softer. This there is a mini accentuation. Yeah. I think it's, sorry, the left hand is legato in my edition. The left.
Yep, I also have it, but
is that right?
actually I have
Oh, cool. Oh, what do you have? Yeah, that's fine. But if you have pa, still don't accent. It's okay to do. And still the idea of rappa, rappa, rappa. Good, but be careful. When you play an accent and a non-accent, the non-accent being too soft, it's a silence almost. So if you go, I cannot hear it. So, yeah. Do you hear it? Can you hear the second note after the accent? Don't be shy. I need to hear from you because the whole is different there. Can you hear that? Play again, so you give them a chance. Ha, he's very smart. He corrected right away. That was good. See, I tricked you, but it worked. Okay, this is beautiful. So now, give me a little difference when you play. And you go back to that liquid world of, water. Can you try from? Can you change the character a little bit with con anima? You see that he takes this warm register that is here now. Yes. So make sure you have a calmer, not this. You don't want that. You want. Always bass, because it's the basis of the harmony. Do again from here. More like a mezzo forte feeling. Good. Don't restart though. Like ti-ra-ra, it's too sentimental. Oh, now I have this. It's too fragmented. Also, if you have this with soul, then you don't want to play soulless the other part, like pam 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 pam. Someone play like exercising, you know, on the trumpet or something. It's just for fun. It's still related to. You have to believe that it's actually very tender. Ah, come on, don't do. Yeah, it's like chewing gum. You're just expanding it too much, and then you know it feels sentimental. You do this. Oh, isn't that nice? And then you go. It's like you're saying to the audience, "Did you hear it? Ah, it's good, right? Okay." Now you just make sure. And right. Don't jump too much. And then get a little longer because the staccatos disappear. So after from what is your bass? What is that? No, not that, not that. Just play a single note that sounds like that. Yes. Ah. Good. Make an effort to hear it. Do you hear it? Ah, you hear it. Good. Play for me just that. So beautiful. 2 notes. That. Good. Now do this for me. Can we switch just out of? Oh, so maybe you have a heavier right hand. Maybe you should play that passage that way. Yeah, you see that it sounded a lot better. I mean, it sounded a lot more convincing. So do exactly the same thing. It's just that we have to be more aware of our left hand. Good. Can this be also? Bravo. Without the shoulder, okay? Yes. That's not going to sell you tickets. It's not going to work. Okay, one more time. Sorry. What you can do, though, similarly, expand your body motion by doing. So you have this, you have a little more weight into the key. Beautiful. You know, these are all good ideas. Probably they're not fully yours, and you haven't assimilated it to the point that they are yours now. So they're good ideas. Make sure that it's natural. Don't make it unnatural. Kind of. Just go with the acoustic space. When you see the sound gone, and you go, is that enough for you, or you need? Okay. So make sure that the space is a good idea. Voice better also. Can you do that without pedal for me? Go if you can a little higher with the bridge of your hand. Right. So, yes, so your voice better that way. Try now. Then the pedal comes to emphasize. Okay, you want this. You see the word fortissimo. So does it mean la 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 la, or is it la 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 la? Is it here, or is la 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 la? What do you want out of this?
Like just keep on being like loud.
Dee 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 dee. Yes, I wish there was a way to write, because psychologically when we see a symbol in one place, we tend to do more, and then we don't realize that we do a little less later. So you plateau, you suddenly do, a big difference between the piano that precedes it, and so, yeah, try. Okay, that's a little bit to like a Liszt concerto, maybe. Maybe just, yes, but not this. Because this one is not going to give you the sound. Make sure the wrist is flexible. Yes, flexible, but not. Good. Again, try. Don't forget the inner voice. That's nice. I could hear the inner voice and the top. So sometimes when we want to emphasize something that we have discovered, we overdo that voice and we lose the other voice. But as you practice, you will be able to balance them now that you hear. Then this is tough, right? I think you're doing almost like an accompaniment to a singer, that you kind of do. You'd slow down before the voice enters. But I think this you can go, right? You did. I think you can just go. I think this is not going to give you the. No, I think you need more, maybe a bit more, huh? Yes. Careful of one thing. Ta-di-da-dum, pa-di-da-da. Ti-di-di-di-di-di-da-da. Ti-di-di-di-di-di-da-da. People begin to find out that you're waiting a little too much. Okay, this one was very good. So when you do ho, ti, ti, why don't you wait a moment? Ti, ti-da-di-da-da. So you tell me the climax, no? Good. And how many notes am I supposed to hear in your left hand? 1 or 2? But how many? There are 4, right? It's because you're doing this, look. Try this. hold the, yeah. Don't separate the wrist, hold it in place a little bit better with a, so you do that, yes. Especially these two guys. That, yeah, yes. And also, don't get faster because you're gonna use like the first time you played. Yeah. I want to hear them all. Also, I hear almost like that. If you speed up, you lose the rhythm. Tika tika ta, tika tika ta, not tika tika patam. It sounds like a acciaccatura, like a grace note. A bit more. More. Yeah, not like like in Schubert, but not like kind of brilliant sound. Huh? The thumb. That was nice. Think of the thumb. Good, no? Yeah, so I submit to you that when you are here, which is fine because you have to go in this location to play better, right? So now from this place, don't go like this, go, because you go, and then, you know, use your spine to go adjust, and then, good, bravo. Terrific. It's such a joyful waltz, isn't it?
bench isn't going down. Sorry? The bench isn't going down.
You have to make it harder. You have to like kneel on it. Yeah. In order to let it go.
Bounce on it a little bit. Pull up and bounce.
Just stand on it and press down.
Probably with my weight. Sorry. Okay, you want it a little bit lower, right? Let's see. This is so close to the piano. Oh my, it's very high. Is this too low? You want to try? It's okay?
Yeah, this is good.
Okay, then you always put it back like this. Just a little emergency tool. maybe the applause didn't come, not because of how you played the finale, but because we had another student in the young artist category playing this piece, and she played 2 movements, so everybody was maybe waiting for the next. So no worries. It was very exciting, full of energy, brilliance, and and a lot of movement, sense of motion, and sheer enjoyment for the ride. We already heard a wonderful masterclass with Paul Lewis about this piece, so perhaps I'm gonna repeat some things, hopefully not too much, but maybe you guys were not here for that, so I'm not sure. In any case, you can watch it later, so you'll have another take on this piece. We all know the story of one of the 3 invasions of Vienna. The French came in, and those who could would possibly go to another house far away. And so his best friend and student, the Archduke Rudolf, left, and Beethoven was left to cover his ears with pillows because he couldn't stand the sound of the cannons as they were bombarding the city. So you can imagine we have, unfortunately, the same situation that didn't seem to change much over time. So this beginning is soulful and rich of certain melancholy for the departure of his very best friend and patron. You know that he also gave Beethoven, one of the 3 people who gave Beethoven a pension. So he, instead of going to London, he could consider a job in London, he could stay in Vienna, and he could compose freely. And so he only did additional activities such as teaching with some specific people, but it was his choice. He didn't have to necessarily do that. I was looking for another piece that is quite similar, because the horn calls that we all know about, the 3rd, the 5th, the 3rds and 5th and 6th are typical intervals, are also in the last Mozart sonata. You probably know the 2nd movement. Right? So if you imagine to begin this piece with the idea of or so that you really persuade yourself that you are going to simply resolve that chord in E flat major. That's the classic idea, because instead of having, now we have a 5/6 cadence, which changes to just even most incredible change of color there. So you have to really be a believer that we are absolutely in E flat, and only at the last minute you have to put a lot of efforts. You did the subito piano. It's not, of course, written, but it's a good idea. The difficulty I find, it's always that of the voicing for the thumb, but to have the, so we spend so much time thinking about because it's the Lebevol, motto, but I'm thinking that sometimes we should think of because the thumb is a different finger, and so it's kind of a different animal. It responds to in different ways. Sometimes we do this and it collapses, or it's to, so see if you can try to practice like this, and then maybe move even the body in the direction of this. Can you try the lower voices? Good. And it's possible, sure, to do this. But have you tried to do this? So that you are a little bit higher, a little. Yes. So, honestly, I never felt so comfortable. I would have done 2, 5, 1, 3, and or 1, 4, but 1, 3 even better. And then I have plenty of time to change 1, 3 to 2, 5, and then even with the help of the pedal, frankly, depending on how long the pinky is for each hand is different, right? To do either this legato or even release the F last minute so you can pivot on the B flat and have absolutely a clarity for. This is a great test you can do. When you practice, you play a chord. To test if you like it, I remove all the voices and I try to stick to the voice that I usually have problem with. So when I hear it in the context with all the other voices and then alone, I want to hear the volume of that note. If I do, that was weak, right? So if I do, it's pretty good. So it's a good test sometimes that helps you hear initially that note, that pitch in the context of the chord and also outside of it alone, yeah? Let's try one more time this beginning with, try one time my fingering just to see if it even works for you. 2, 5, 1, 3, pedal, syncopated pedal, change 1, 3 to 2, 5, and then either 1, 4 or 1, 3. Probably 1, 3 safest. Maybe you're not used to the, maybe you're not used to this 2, 5. You can try to go up with 2 and 4, you know, just go up with the wrist and try more like this. That's very good. Take your time. Good. Good. Sometimes we delay the, and then because of this strange position, we also delay a little bit that. So I propose one little exercise, either eliminating, transforming this tam pa pa into ya ta tim, ya ta tan, because the idea of it's a tritic. There are 3 things happening, right? Then he does it a little faster. He does, so it's the idea is always 3, and 2 in the left hand. Later we will see that the motto of 3 notes becomes 2 notes. He shortens it to 2, and then before that he amplifies that from 3 to 4, which is this. It should be just, you see? And it's an appoggiatura, but it becomes 4 notes. And then it's all based on the motto anyway. So what I would do is to try this rhythm. Just that. Can you try? 16th notes. Pa, ti, tim. Good. If it's too linear and you don't feel there is enough resistance, you don't need the crescendo, but there must be some resistance that makes us feel that this when you have an augmented sixth, the resolution is that the bass resolves half a step and the sixth resolves upward by half a step. So you have these voices that are moving first in an oblique motion, then they go contrary motion to do that. So you hear. So although there is no crescendo, this is a powerful chord that must resolve. Okay, so we have that to hear two voices plus the melody. And so if it's too linear in a sense that you feel that the beats are too even, you can take a moment here. Just a little. And you learn that way what kind of timing you need. Then the dot will be easier. Try. Very beautiful. Now you can do quite similar, right? It gives you the energy to hear the That's much more in time. You see, you only took a small moment here before the E flat. That's perfectly fine. But if we mess around too much with the ornament to make it too beautiful, then suddenly the energy that we had earlier is dissipated by this unclear sense of rhythm. Yeah, just then flutes. This, like sometimes in Mozart's orchestra or even Beethoven, no? He writes in a certain way and then suddenly he stops all the lower strings or even all the strings, and he has bassoon, and then he has clarinet, oboe, and then second flute doing, and first flute. So it's all very much woodwinds, the sound. I don't know if you can hear that, you know, that. Yeah, that kind of color, whereas this is more a bit dark. So we might benefit from more left hand, believe it or not, like. So we can stand out and underplay the left hand and do more. You hear it all the time. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but sometimes you can even that to feel like it's the same family of instrument, more. And only here maybe. And now more. I don't know why anybody doesn't bother to try to show the writing. Two and staccato, da. I think it's very important. You should try very hard. Try from here. Also, try again this. Look at my elbow. Roll a little, because I see sometimes you have a beautiful sound, but sometimes I don't know what's going on here, something. And I want you to be as free as you can here. See these movements like this. Besides, they are great conducting gestures. They help you keep the time freely. Try from. without accent, right? I have strange fingering maybe, but I would do, I would play it with the pinky, no matter what I do to get to, maybe 1, 3, 5, 5. Because this way, it doesn't become too staccato, or the risk is that I do this, and then because of the change of motion, I may play too loud. So I play. You can also use another finger, but making sure that whatever you do, you approach it like this, smooth. Try maybe from. Better. Bravo, that's very good actually. Another thing for the sforzando is not only about, I think what makes it special is the 7th, which is unusual. It's not with the root and the 7th at the top, but he puts the 7th in the center and the root at the top. But we have to hear the center of, so more, rather than that becomes too brilliant and the other 4 voices are not audible. So more. One last time. Try touch all 3 and then go raise a little the 2nd finger and go like. So you do this, try this. Okay, and now you go. Yeah? You see? It's interesting. One finger has slightly more distance than the others, which means to catch up with them, they have an easier time playing the key and a faster time, right? So it needs to speed up. Speed equals more sound. And then the result of the chord is unbalanced to the center. So it's very mathematical, isn't it? But it works. This is mixed, but if we do, you hear the A flat much more. Yeah. So that's one way to do it, probably. Anyway, so that's the idea. This was very beautiful. So try from that. I think this could go just a little bit more. Good. Can I ask you to try just this? I mean, look at my position. It's very strange. I have longer arms, like this. Try this and feel the weight, I mean, of having to sustain that from the shoulder. Do you feel it? A little, like, it kind of gets heavy, right? You should feel, not pain, but some small amount of tension around here. And so with that in mind, don't break the arm and go for, play for me like a bunch of B major chords. Isn't that nice? Good. And now, instead of stopping on each, imagine that there is water and you splash gently, like a wavy motion, and you never stop. Try. Oh, how's the sound? Can you try? And when you like it, you go. Continue. Yeah, the wave. Use the elbow to wave around it. Good. I know many people do that because the music is lower, so we should play softer. So if you play, that's one way to do it. But I find that this, this is E flat. The sound is that of E flat minor. So it's not as intense. Maybe this is a little bit more because it's a diminished chord. And the parts are spread out a little bit. But this, very distant. What chord is this? This chord is, yes? So it's half diminished seventh chord. So I think this, first of all, 3 parts and not 4. This is 4 parts and a half diminished chord going to a fully diminished chord. So these two, in theory, are pregnant of more meaning than the previous chord. So I find that after I do, even if it's not written, I would give it, you know, a bit more. This way, it's a lot easier to do the diminuendo when you play. And I want you to once feel that the piece ends here. So, when you play, so it feels dead, and suddenly there is that little surprise. Can you try from maybe? Now more. And now, and you even try to, in the whole you can take advantage of a slight gap. Instead of legato, you can do. Now. Try to hear good. And when you control the sound, it gets harder. So make sure the control is more holistic, somewhere in here. And the arms are more like, you know, a faucet open. Water goes into the keyboard, like fluidity. You know, I just did it 2 ways. I did it this way, and I thought I was thinking a lot. Then I went like this, and I opened up, and it came out more naturally. See, there's something about this. Beautiful. Very good. Now, this, I love it a lot. The, you know, tempo is a little bit personal, and so it's very difficult. I find that not to play the coda a little too slowly because it's all mesmerizing. The coda has all these very high scales. They are found in the Missa Solemnis, in the Credo, where he says, et in saecula saeculorum, which is hard to translate, and on into the future. I suppose you could translate as that. So there is a sense of otherworldly meaning for, and the Beethoven uses very unusual high scales. You should listen to this. It's quite mesmerizing. And I think the end of this sonata is truly magnificent. It's as though Beethoven doesn't want to really say goodbye. That, you know, when you say, hey, bye, I'll see you later. I'll really see you later, okay? All right, I go now. Bye, yeah? And bye. Yeah, okay. So be well. Farewell. Goodbye. And it never happens, right? That's what he does. He keeps repeating this. It starts low and it keeps going up. So because of this calm feeling, And the word dolce, we saw it also in Chopin, where I said that maybe sometimes with dolce you have to do something with the tempo. Late Beethoven is unusual. In Opus 109, it's the only moment in the second movement where Beethoven told us something. When he writes espressivo, and then 2 or 3 bars later you see the word a tempo. Ah. So espressivo did mean, at least in that passage, probably to slow down a little bit. So these modifiers, such as dolce, which I believe is what he writes in the coda, no? Yes, when you... So if we don't want to suddenly... he helps us by doing this very strange music that nobody understands. It's so... How many composers wrote this? A piece of music like this? You know, he can sell you anything. It's so convincing in the right moment where he put that idea that it is quite incredible. Another composer taking the same idea would be just, oh my God, you have to take some composition lessons. Doesn't make sense, right? Well, he's able to make it work. And so because the music is calmer, already that could be what helps you get a little bit into the mesmerizing sound of the end and maybe a calmer vision of the end due to the word dolce. But the other thing is we can't also mess around with the tempi too much by saying I play the coda definitely a little slower than the rest. So in that case, you might have to modify a little bit the opening by not playing as allegro. After all, cut tempo in half means we need 2 beats. So what is 2 beats? It's yam, if you play that fast, it's still 2, but if I do ram, it depends, you know, because maybe you feel that you need more energy when you play these. Yeah? But if it's too fast, you have the drive, like Pollini, for example. He plays quite fast. But there are some people that play a little slower because they feel that this is the whip on the horse. When you go like, okay, now goodbye, and suddenly, you have all this, that's the moment you tell the horse it's time to go. And then you have this, whatever, you have this, which is just fine, because after all, in Vienna at that time, your little horse ride was not as noisy, maybe, so this is even calmer. There are different types of motion by horses. So it depends a little bit on how you feel about that. But you could try and see if you feel that you lose the energy. You try from tim, do, tim, pum, pum. What you need is more the tu, so a little less pedal, or use the pedal for the articulation. So more fingers movement for this. Can you try that? Right on it. Pop, pop. By the way, you played that splendidly well, but now even better, because you gave yourself about 1.5% of room to do, even better. This is, I send it your way for further thinking, okay? But your tempo was essentially fine. When you play, I love that you wait a little bit. Don't hesitate. It's wonderful. You can take time. Otherwise, I don't hear the sforzando. It's nice to have a... Imagine if you had to do, I don't know. If you had to jump to another register. That's the same feeling, right? There is energy when somebody does this, because if I do... If it's too easy, if I do... you lose the energetic feeling. it's as though you're making the effort to pull the piano up and move it a little bit. That's, it has that kind of energy. So I love that you do that. And you can do even more on the G natural. So you can do... there, go. Then it goes, you see? Okay. Do from here again. Top left hand. L, very beautiful. Now think more flutes, oboes, and you know they love to show the how is this G, which is now losing the pitch, but when you do, it changes color of the G. So if it's too quick, I don't hear the changes of color, but if you go then I hear maybe instead of surprise, it doesn't do, but it. So if you slow, it's the same as the fourth scherzo of Chopin. When you play pa 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 pi, when you go down, you should slow down because the harmonies, see, they're all slightly different. Whereas when they go up, it's the same harmony, so no problem. You can use rhythm. And you hear all this, you taste all these different, you know, gelato tastes of chords. The same thing happens in a way when you do, you have a, yeah? So try one time, and every time in this passage, make sure you hear not so much all the. We have it in two voices, so we need actually. Yeah? Can you try that again from maybe here? Look, you're making very hard. You're very precise, but look, your hand looks like this, and you're testing, you know, what if you did just this again? Like this movement, like this. Expand the arm movement, and go. Instead of that you have to time too much the ascending motion. Try. I need more when you play like a great singer. Open, yeah. So beautiful, bravo. Good. Now the goodbye. Lebevol, lebevol, lebevol. So the secondary voice that does ya ra 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 ra. I wouldn't do so much in tempo. I do ti ra ra ya ra ra ri ri do ti tempo ra 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 ra. Already it sounds very fast because of ra 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 ra. Otherwise we tend to, because of these two notes, doing appoggiatura like not appoggiatura but passing tone. This we tend to accent ti ra fa mi re do, and then we hear 1, 2, 3, da. So it sort of grounds it instead of almost senza tempo, without tempo. So we have to be a little bit generous with the with that part. Can you try? Yes. Then tempo. That was great. Pa 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 pa. relax, relax your body. Yes, you have to have two bodies. The one of the top, which is moving very calmly, and this, and the other is, so this, very calm, okay? Try. This, you have to be careful, everybody, please. A little too accented. So, it's the only one that has a 1/4 note like pa, pa. So we have to make sure ti, pa, pa, pam, pa, pa, pam, pa, pa, pam, re, re. A bit smoother. Try from. Yes. Okay, but be careful with the that stays too long. Think of as if you had to jump with one hand, so kind of. Same. Relax. Yes. Yes. So if you listen to the beginning of this trio of Beethoven that has a lot of quarter notes, basically, right? And it's cantabile. And instinctively, I think you do a little bit of that, you know, when you play ti, when you play ti, ti, da, ba, 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 da. So it becomes a bit more tender, and you lose a little bit of time, which is good, because this way it doesn't feel like, ah, da, 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 you know, that we feel the half notes too much. Those are for, definitely for that, right? With the clarity of the left hand. I'm sorry that we have to stop. I wanted to at least get to that beautiful ending. Could you play for me this? I wanted to show you one other interesting thing, which is, we said that this melody, with this motto of 3 notes, becomes 4 because this is an appoggiatura chord. It becomes actually so it's there, and then this is also part of the motto in a different way. Good. Still 3 notes, right? Now we have. Instead of, now we have opposite, it's going up, right? Later, he will do an extension. So even the bass is originating from the opening idea. This does too. You have the original idea here instead of, you have a with a different rhythm, and then in reverse. Simultaneously. So all of these things are kind of interesting. You don't play any differently because you know this. But when you know this, it makes you also appreciate the craft that's behind this music that sometimes sounds like a random idea, and it feels like, well, it's fitting. And then you go and you look at the molecules, and you know, you go a step lower and you realize, oh my goodness, it's all connected. It's quite a web, you know. So just to finish, I wanted to say one last thing, which is when you play these, to find the touch that's a bit lighter when you play, and relaxing near the edges. When you are about to reach the climax, you play, instead of, I don't call it rubato, just it's a normal thing. You know, when you go up and you reach the peak, your breath is a little different. You go like a little slower. Okay, now let's go. You know, that feeling. So when you play these last few passages, let the sense of time expand a little bit, because it's as though you never want to say goodbye. Really, that's the idea. Thank you so much. Very beautiful. Wow. Beautiful. I have a lot of respect for whoever tackles these, because they are each so different, and you don't have any time. Some of them are 1 minute long, and you have to suddenly change the mood rather quickly. I have to tell you a trick. I forget where I learned it or who told me now, but it's kind of funny, but it's a bit safer because it's the end of the entire cycle, and so boom, boom, and then some people have sometimes, played the wrong note. So it's the first one, no problem. Then some people basically lower slightly the C and E, and they go. So even if there is a margin of error, because, anyway, there is so much pedal on this, no problem to do a slower motion. I don't think it's an aggressive D that should bounce off to power. It's almost like a death bell. Well, here is because George Sand, who was living in Mallorca with Chopin when he was writing these pieces. I believe this, I can't remember if this is the one that was that famous night of rain that is depicted in her memoirs, the terrible story. He was very sick all the time in Mallorca, so then he changed location, and it was even, unhealthier for him, and then he couldn't find the proper inversion of the chord, or whether you needed that at the top or that in the center, and he was like sweating, and he was like, the depiction of Chopin composing these preludes is quite amazing. Like like the artist that really is trying to work on one single note to try to make it better, and it's not coming, and this constant process that was grueling and very, very difficult. So there is something very powerful, especially about the last piece. Hans von Bülow, just like Alfred Cortot, gave titles to these pieces. and they are quite, sometimes they are close, sometimes they're a little bit different, but they're quite beautiful, as something that you could look into. It's easy to find them now on the web, and they're very beautiful, stimulating, titles for the imagination of these pieces. It's as though they try to do, maybe Bülow not, but Cortot certainly knew the Debussy preludes, right? So he tried to create, small titles that would reflect the meaning, and something about, I think, if I remember, the molto agitato, tiram, papa, something about great distress, and then he ends this beautiful poetic sentence with, but the distress that is inside me is far, far bigger. So it's what is inside our heart in terms of distress, and is causing this agitato. It's quite beautiful. And of course, these preludes have been subdivided in sets. Some people created even categories, the idyllic, like the F major, for example, or the cantabile. There are a few cantabile throughout, right? And then there are the etudes, such as number 19, number 16 maybe, and number 3. And I forget, but it's kind of interesting that they have created these categories where you can see the elegies, the hymn-like, not like the C minor, no, the hymn, chorale or hymn-like. So that's also stimulating in some ways. But all of them, as you noticed, they are, as you know, in Mallorca, he was looking at the well-tempered clavier a lot, and he was looking at the preludes of Bach, realizing that also Bach uses some small ideas throughout the prelude, and therefore the prelude in itself shouldn't be too long, and that's why the collection has a few extended ones. For example, the so-called nocturnal preludes, like right, number 13 or number 15. That was, I think, about that water coming in Mallorca, the repeated notes, the story goes. But anyway, so I think that is something to keep in mind for you to look into as you proceed. Are you playing all the other preludes as well? Okay, that should be a major project. But if you play already these kind of difficult ones at the end, you may want to think about it in the future. Yeah. Okay, so this one is, I find it extremely, extremely difficult in some way, almost more than that in some ways, because that one you can kind of a little bit get around. There are a few problems, but this one is full of them. Sometimes there are places where the hand can control it, depending on the size, and some are where you go a little bit with the weight on top of the cantabile notes. And by the way, it's funny. If you watch Yuja Wang playing this, she plays it very slowly in comparison to, I don't know, Kissin or Polini or Margerich. So there are two categories of pianists playing number 19 quite slow, and actually, believe it or not, for somebody of that caliber, she seems a little worried in some ways, and she plays it absolutely beautifully, there's no question about it. But it was very unusual when I first saw that live performance. I remember it very well because I thought, wow. And then she can do all this sort of stuff. But this one, she approaches it with great cautions. But it's also because maybe she's interested in finding the true cantabile more than the vivace. It's kind of interesting. This one has almost like two timings among various pianists. I know those that go quite quickly, and then they take a little time here and there to show the beautiful angles that this music has. So technically speaking, there are some places where you lean a little, right? And others where you go in between this chord and that. And you take advantage of the phrasing to breathe a little in between. That's what you can do with this piece. Could you try? Also, another thing that sometimes it's very helpful, of course, as you know, to play just the melody with the bass, maybe to realize that suddenly you have a it's a difficult voice because it's the third note of every three. So you have, but it's the second too. So but it's actually, in the end, is the third note that matters, yeah? So if you can slow those passages and try to add those inner voices just a little bit, it might be interesting to try. Try? Play one time this. So you make it as musical as you can. Try. You see with the harmony how beautiful that is, right? And the harmony is created by this constant shifting motion of the notes. It's never a chord in this case, right? Yeah, because he needs the expansion to create more warmth out of the piano. Of course, the expansion means also that it makes noise, because if the thumb hits, right, that's what happens. So you have to find the control in these movements. All these. Yeah, can you try? Yes. Good. So the first one is it has, but really it's mostly the harmony of B flat. So you're of the dominant. So you have a dominant of the dominant. You have that maybe, or so I would say that maybe the second one, that crescendo diminuendo, the second one could be a bit slightly more intense than the a little. Try from maybe here. You know what you can, because it's hard to do it that way, it's the left hand. You can, you ignore this. You see, with the left hand, with the bass. Change the pedal carefully with a. So you hear the harmony change. And so on. I can't play it. This you have to practice. Try. Brava. Now, this is the place where you get that strange. They never should stand out so much that they take over the melody, but a small shadow when you play they come a little later, right? And they show us the way for a more melancholic color, the chromaticism. And then so it really is a play slowly one time from a so that you learn to change the pedal even better, because the pedal, when we play too fast, it sounds syncopated. If you play after the fourth note, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's too late at that speed. So you have to think of a kind of 2 and 2, like. Now, of course, the only person who plays nearly without pedal is Pogorelic, as far as I know. Have you heard that performance? But I must say, for my taste, after a while, in the beginning, I get the point, but after a while, I start feeling it sounds more exercise-like near the end, because it's too dry. And then I wonder, this composer is one of the few being extremely picky about the pedal. And he was adamant, he wrote so many of them. Some are hard to understand with the modern piano, they sound very different. But I think because he spent so much time, I think we have to, with Beethoven, whenever he left us one pedal, everybody has to wonder about it, and we take it to heart. Because he wrote so many, everybody's like, oh, well, on Monday you do it this way, Tuesday the other way. But no, we should really investigate, In the Barcarolle, there is an opening pedal for which he removes the pedal because he doesn't want the dirt. And it's very interesting what he does here. Then you have the 10th. So it's quite smart about the use of pedal. We should always think about it, And also we should think why he doesn't write pedal sometimes. Does it mean that it's similar to the beginning, so he doesn't want to bother? Or sometimes it's possible to make it a little drier? These are all, but we should count that in our thinking about this music. Let's go back one more time maybe to playing a little bit slowly from here. From that place. Think of 3-1. Good. When the music has repeated basses, you play the first, but don't go. Yeah? Let Beethoven do that. no. Yeah, we don't want Chopin to do that with these repetitions, right? It's too, so it's mostly to repeat so that we don't forget the harmony. It's to hear the upper notes mostly, right? So when you have that kind of design with constant, you know, the first and the others should be more not intended to be heard as much, in other words. Yeah. Try again from there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, change pedal when you play this though. This one. Each one should have a different, because these are all different harmonies. Quick. Keep going. If the third note, pa pa pa, has no pedal, is okay. So it's okay. So make sure that it's quite, you know, it doesn't have to be so glued to the point that we don't hear the change of the harmony. It is okay. And then with your ear, you calculate if you hear too much gap and it's too dry, then you stay a little longer and you don't come up as soon as possible after the second note, maybe a little more than the second note. You do it by ear, obviously. We play the pedal with the ear, not with foot in some ways. One more time, from there. Yes, play one time all with the pinky for me this way. Because this way you learn not to stop on, because when it's more difficult you go, and you don't want that. It's not even an accent, it's a stop in the flow. Kind of float and feel, like I said before, it is water, and you splash on the surface a little bit. You don't drop the arm deeper, because is what makes it so, you know, smooth and natural. Easy to say, right? Try. Yes, yes. Bass. Re, ra, re, ra, ra, ra. Yeah, exactly. Good. Here there are various diminuendos, which, according to some people, they mean not diminuendos, because why did they bother writing? Does it mean that we have to do tum, bem, bi, pa, pi, pa, ba, pi, to? They're rather a way to say ya, ra, ra. Take your time, take your... No, when it's large, you go a little slower. When it's smaller, you go a little faster. So, da, ra, ra, ram, ti, ra, ra. And it's a way to inform us that he doesn't want 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, no, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Sometimes it's 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Other times it's 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. Other times it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. This one is 2, 3, 1. 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So it's to take time on the 2. Otherwise, 1, 1, 1. It's all one based. But if I do re, mi, pa, tu, de, do, mi, de, do, di, re, and then tempo, pa, pa. Yeah. So when you see Chopin writing all this, you know, bunch of diminuendos, you really wonder, why didn't he write a full diminuendo? And are we sure that these are really diminuendos? It's kind of interesting, huh? Yeah. Okay. time here. I would keep the pedal and be much more. I know that it's possible to play more elegantly and so on, but it's actually almost to say, I made it, because it's so difficult. It's a release of that intensity. Okay, let's try just a little bit with a little bit. I don't want to say your fastest tempo, but try and test yourself, try. 3-1. 3-1. Relax. Go to A. Less. 2 and 2. Yeah, so this is 2 and 2, right? 2 and 2. Good, try. And that's okay to take time. Calm. Time. Yeah, try take from pianissimo. More. Time. Go. Yes. Bravo. And then the connection between this chord, feel the crescendo and but look, if I play this, do you hear the power of the G? Look at this. It's a little softer, my left hand. Otherwise, especially on that piano, you will sound like as much as you try, you don't hear the top. So a little more. Maybe that one. That. And you stop. It's segmented. I think you stop the play with your ear, but play with your body. What is your body if you say, when you reach the center of the movement, you don't stop, you do. See, for every action, there is a continuation of the action. So when you reach, I wouldn't lock my arm, I would, I want you to try this experiment. Hold this chord. Let's try this. So you kind of go low and then, now, what does it mean for you if you let go of the thumb after striking? Like, so you do this. It's the same as this. Chopin didn't tell you to do. Hold it, but so I would consider that because it helps the movement and it helps you feel that there is a direction from one note to the next. Try. Let the thumb go. Sorry. Yes. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and da 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 da, 2, 3, 4, and then dum 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 bam bam and careful, no, too much. Yeah, listen to the sound. You have to nuance the sound with the inner voices too. Otherwise, if you get too much shouts, you need the support of the other voices. Yes, but you see, we were not. My 1, 2, 3, 4 was never constant. I kind of, you know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, la la la, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and the goal oriented to go there. 2, 3, 4, da da da, 2, 3. Now I want to go because this is the end. 2, 3, 4. Now the inner voice, fine. Do it here. Then, of course, 2 and 2. But the third time, I would suggest that instead of redoing the more pianissimo with the inner voice or the top voice, I do like the chromatic left hand top. Yeah, it's very beautiful to hear it. Try from first piano. 2, 3, 4, la, 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 la. Never stop. Ya, la, 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 la. Brava. You see, there is a logic to, so if you have a grid of inner rhythms at a smaller level than the quarter notes, I think it guides your rubato with a bit more, it doesn't become the feeling of the moment, you know, it's calculated in a way that it's quite organic. More like Rubinstein used to play. He wasn't just one of those guys that did rubato in a fuzzy way. There was always a sense, a formal sense to the rubato. What a great, great interpreter of the music of Chopin. Then there is the cantabile. This is so hard. So I invite you, for fun, to also play. Sorry. It's very difficult to do it with two hands, but it offers you a way to. Yeah. So try one time if you can. So the biggest problem is that we do fa, re, fa, mi, re, sol. So the crescendo of the left hand is sometimes taking away from the melody. So no matter what, we still have to find the long, certain pianos have a much, much longer way. So the gesture needs to be a bit more. Bit more, I don't want to say impressionistic, the left hand, but also don't follow the pedals 100%, like if you, because if you do, listen. If you remove the pedal quickly, you hear vibrato. The pedal gives you vibrato, so you hear. It goes from and it stops the vibrato. So you may have to make a smoother action, a slower release of the pedal where indicated. And it's indicated because otherwise, you know, it's too chromatic and it makes a mess otherwise if we hold it. And imagine if I do. Yeah, there you go. Okay, try again. Bigger gesture. Each time the arm and the movement of the finger. Speak this note. Not like a. It's different from. I can't remember, what is it? It's a different. And when it's fast, you play like that, but it's slow, you can slow down the ornaments. Brava, yeah. And when you want more sound, I'm not sure about this, I would do that, but expand again the elbow here and a longer arm. Yes. Go. You see two diminuendos, so you have a. It gets a bit agitated. Ra, ri, ra, ri, ra, ra, slow, and then go da, di, da, 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 da. Huh? Di, 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 fa, di, da, no, da, di, do, di, do, do, re, so, la, di, si. Go at a distance, a small distance. Slowly leaving the key like you're playing a gong, a little. Now let it resonate, right? More now. This section can go a little bit more though, because there is less music in terms of rhythmic power. We have a ta, ta. If you were to sing it, then you have the di, di, ra. You have to, you have to take a breath in between the phrase. So if you want. And so on. I don't remember now. Try it. Sing, do, di, di, do. Very ondulatory. Good. Yeah, this is fine. And then enjoy at the end the. It's both one, but it has all these patterns of 4 notes. 3. And it has to sound like. I would take time on the C, not. Look up. You give me permission to play the C? Okay, now I play the C, not just 1, 2, 3, 1, and then D. days. Yeah, okay. This one, it was too loud in the left hand, so I can't hear it's a force between two people disagreeing. So, sorry. All of this has to include the right hand. So save it for when it's higher, but that piano evidently has stronger basses. So kind of, and then maybe and then you can do that. Can you try? Prepare this hand a little bit already before you start, and a little bit higher like this. You have to go from above. Yes. But wait a second, the pedal. When you play... you cannot do one bar pedal. You have to have two pedals at least, yeah? Go with the right hand. With the left hand first note, B, da, 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 re, da, da, da. You know, it's kind of in the middle in some ways. Too long, your pedals are too long, yeah? For here, even this one needs 2 per bar, so make sure you really don't stick too long to the pedal because you won't be able to be heard. Yeah, 4 was very good, really very good. Maybe there was an error or a casualty, but I heard something in something like that, you know, just make sure in the first page that you check. But it was very beautiful. I really liked it. You know, like you know, the key of the 6th Symphony is so pastoral. It's hard, and you played it so beautifully. I give the highest vote to this one because it's actually hard to play. You know. Without hurrying, keeping it very calm, and letting the birds sing, you know. And the other one is very hard, and I find that sometimes you feel like you are losing the tension in the melody, so you start accelerating because you feel there is nothing happening here. But actually, that's not how you feel in the audience when you sit there. You feel. And that's fine. You did it so beautifully. So feel when you have a bit more introverted and a bit softer when you're doing A minor. And basically, it's a matter of not feeling that that this is dead and you want to go quickly, so you accelerate there, because then you have to slow down during the scale. So it has to have a certain sense of this. If you almost feel so that one can conducting without feeling like they're not following me. You know, it has to be a bit more comfortable for the conductor to feel this gesture. So listen to the recording and conduct yourself, and you will see that at some point when you're going up, you also have to accelerate the down downward motion of your arm because you're actually speeding up somewhere. And then you will notice where those places take place, and you will ask yourself, what's happening harmonically or melodically that's making me react like this? Or do I have a fear, an inherent fear of the passage that follow? Am I with it? Am I thinking ahead? And then you will be able to very much to sort this out. And bravo on these double thirds. Now you have already Chopin's second concerto, first movement, the famous passage, and ready, you already practiced these. It's almost the same. Good for you. No, it was quite beautiful. And then you can try, experiment with the play, or just I forget what I think. I think they cover maybe like so. I think they cover everything, so you can totally go. You can go with 3 fingers as a result, but you go for the sound quality. So you go for. You see, so avoid the anger that comes from. Or whatever it is that sometimes we want to do the maximum fortissimo. That's all. Yeah. Brava. Good for you. You're welcome. Brava. Very brave to play the last 6. Usually people play the first 6 when they split, right? Good. Okay. C'est fini.